Shawn Lawrence Otto, The War on Science, Who's Waging It, Why It Matters, What We Can Do About It. In the face of the tidal wave of new knowledge the 21st century will bring, The War on Science, Who's Waging It, Why It Matters, What We Can Do About It, by Shawn Lawrence Otto delves into the critical public concerns that society must confront, such as climate change, stem cell research, and genetically modified foods, among others. Despite holding solutions to many of these problems, science often encounters resistance from fundamentalists, profit-driven corporations, and even some liberals. Otto's book sheds light on obstacles to scientific progress and the spread of science illiteracy, punctuating the urgency with which society must address these issues.
Tackling 21st Century Challenges. Science continues to make great strides in understanding the natural world, but with this progress arise a plethora of public questions. Can society keep up with these challenges, and in what order should they be addressed? As the 21st century advances, science yields a tsunami of newfound information regarding the natural world. How do humans accommodate the consequences of such progress? The big concerns, such as climate change, cybersecurity, genetically modified foods, immigration, stem cell research, biosecurity, droughts, vaccines, and nuclear weapons need answers. Additionally, issues such as pollinator colony collapse and human papillomavirus lay alongside policy questions regarding curiosity-driven research and the effects of science denial on democracy. Can engineers and scientists go faster than policymakers? And how long do we have to address these pressing concerns, and in which order? Undermining Science. Science may hold the key to solving the problems we face, but various groups are standing in the way. From religious fundamentalists to corporations, politicians, and even some liberals, science is being undermined and its importance is downplayed. This culture of science illiteracy is spreading across North America, the United Kingdom, and Australia, leading to unintended consequences. Examples of these consequences include the wrongful arrest of a Temple University professor who was accused of spying based on faulty assumptions by the FBI, and the arrest of a Texas high school student who was suspected of building a bomb when in fact he had simply designed a clock. Without a better incorporation of science into policymaking, democracy may ultimately fail its promise. As it stands, science denial and undermining touches everyone, including in the case of Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has actively led climate change denial. The question remains, will we be well informed enough to be trusted with our own government? The perception of science. This article explores the scientific method as a trusted approach for generating reliable knowledge through observation, experimentation, and peer review. However, converting knowledge into policy requires political support, and in recent years, the public increasingly confuses knowledge with opinion. Even the iconic achievement of the Apollo 11 space mission occurred amidst social unrest and skepticism of scientific progress due to issues like environmental pollution and drug scandals. In 1999, 47% of Americans viewed scientific breakthroughs as major achievements, but only 27% saw them that way a decade later, emphasizing the declining perception of scientific importance among the public. The dark side of science. American astronomer Carl Sagan's warning against anti-science sentiments is demonstrated in his own experience of being rejected by the National Academy of Science and losing his Harvard tenure due to jealous critics. Despite publishing 500 scientific papers in peer-reviewed publications over 40 years, Sagan faced backlash for his popular TV show, Cosmos, which drew 500 million viewers. Sagan's experience demonstrates how scientists can turn on their own and highlights the danger of failing to distinguish between what is true and what feels good, which could lead to a slide back into superstition and darkness. The Vaccine Misinformation War. The discredited link between vaccines and autism, propagated by British surgeon Andrew Wakefield, gains support from celebrities and liberals in upper-income areas, leading to epidemics of preventable diseases as nearly half of school children in Marin County, California, went unvaccinated. This illustrates a war on science based on ignorance and persisting despite overwhelming scientific evidence, according to a 2011 study. Even by the 2008 elections, anti-science views had become political planks of the Republican Party. Truth in journalism. The decline of objective journalism paved the way for emotional and divisive media platforms. Pro-evidence journalism is crucial, especially in the face of science denial. However, the redefining of truth challenges traditional objectivity, resulting in individual realities prevailing over democracy's promise of shared knowledge. The scientific theory may seem uncertain, but refinements shape it, steering it towards the truth, and challenging institutions of power. The PR machines, tobacco and climate change denial. The tobacco and energy industries have a history of using public relations to cast doubt on scientific findings that could harm their business. The tactics have been similar: hire scientific experts to dispute findings, create materials that frame anti-science views as balanced, and use third-party money to promote an agenda. The tobacco industry used these tactics to question the link between smoking and cancer, while the energy industry used them to fight climate change legislation. A group of deniers led this effort, forming a high-profile team of industry executives, advisors, lobbyists, political committees, and public relations experts. The resulting campaign generated confusion and uncertainty, persuading the public that scientists lacked cohesion, generating doubt about climate change. The talking points designed to foster uncertainty, including false statements such as those related to Antarctica's ice spreading and the amount of CO2 emissions from human activity, continue to cloud the debate over climate change. The tragedy of unregulated self-interest. The crisis of our time is the failure of Western democracies, especially America, to create policies that are based on science and public interest. This problem is partly due to the belief in Adam Smith's ideology of the invisible hand, which assumes that a completely free market needs no regulation and that economic growth has no limit. The Tragedy of the Commons by Garrett Hardin argues that if the world relies on Smith's ideology, humanity will exhaust the planet's resources and come to ruin. The metaphor of the herdsman adding animals to the common pastureland explains that each new animal degrades the environment and uses grazing area until the pasture cannot sustain life, and the economy it supports fails. Economists call this effect externalities, which are unintended consequences of unregulated self-interest. While freedom from regulations may seem like a desirable liberty, it leads to pollution, secondhand smoke, and the impact of carcinogens. The combination of population growth, individualism, and technology may be humanity's undoing. Overall, it is essential to create policies grounded in science and serve the public interest to avoid the tragedy of unregulated self-interest. Strategies for a science-literate society. Defeating the war against science involves promoting scientific literacy, improving science communication, addressing disinformation, and developing a scientific code of ethics. Science plays a critical role in shaping our society and addressing global challenges. However, many people lack a basic understanding of scientific concepts, and a growing number of disinformation campaigns undermine the credibility of science. In Defeating the War Against Science, the author proposes a multifaceted approach to promote science literacy and communication. To start, experts need to change how they convey scientific knowledge to the general public. Journalists need to be better equipped to report on science accurately, and they must acknowledge the existence of bias in science reporting. The PR industry should also implement a code of ethics to ensure that science communications are accurate and evidence-based. Society as a whole should also monitor and counter disinformation campaigns. This requires public outreach, collaboration with nonpartisan groups, and creating new career paths in journalism and science communication. Finally, the author proposes the development of a scientific code of ethics to guide researchers and ensure the integrity of science. This code could emphasize a commitment to doing no harm, honesty, humility, and civic engagement. Politicians could also pledge to support evidence-based policymaking and the protection of scientific knowledge. In summary, defeating the war against science requires a multifaceted approach, including promoting scientific literacy, improving science communication, addressing disinformation, and developing a scientific code of ethics. Ultimately, science should continue to be cherished for its ability to bring revelation and beauty to humanity.
The book reveals a widespread crisis affecting Western democracies' ability to foster social and economic policies guided by science and the public interest. It highlights the conflict between your freedom to destroy the environment and freedom from regulations that govern detrimental human behaviors. To counter the war on science, Otto suggests that experts need to change the way they convey scientific knowledge and encourages a well-informed electorate understanding of science culture. With integration between science, journalism, and public policy, the war on science not only unravels the complex world of science but also emphasizes the intrinsic beauty that science brings in revealing truth, just like the world of art.